The EFF wants the ANC booted out of leadership in Nelson Mandela Bay, even if it means voting for a DA-led coalition. The ANC faces the real possibility of being ousted just 8 months after forming a coalition in the metro. There's been concerns of political parties in coalition governments playing politics over delivering basic services to the people. Political analyst Professor Setulego Matabesi joins me from Bloemfontein to discuss whether political parties approach coalitions in the wrong way. And Professor, it's a topic that dominated news conversations before and after the 2021 local government elections. Now we're discussing it again as the EFF chooses to back a DA-led coalition to oust the ANC in Nelson Mandela Bay. The headline for that story in many newspapers being "The Devil You Know." So we've repeated attempts, we've seen repeated failures with coalitions, with members of coalitions collapsing agreements almost as soon as it comes to choosing leaderships. So what are political parties approaching these coalitions? What perspective are they approaching them with? And is that, purely politics?
Hi, good evening, Randy, and good evening to South Africans. This is something that have often happened, a very disappointing situation when it comes to local government, especially if you look at how political parties has been behaving in terms of this coalition government. It seems as if the interest of these political parties are being put above the interests of the residents of these particular municipalities, and in particular a metropolitan municipality like Nelson Mandela Bay, and which is really unacceptable, because we've seen a vicious cycle of, or actually a recycling of a leadership position in that. And the question is, do we actually enhance service delivery each time we change the leadership at local government level?
So stability seems too elusive for residents to bank on for regulated service delivery and governance, as you've just said there. So do residents just have to suck it up for a few years while politicians figure out how to get it right? Or are there actually steps that residents can take?
No, well, most definitely. I mean, our role as political commentators is definitely not to tell South Africans who to vote for. But many South Africans feel that they are strangled by those political parties that they always have been affiliated to. The power of politics lies with South African citizens. And it's still a reality that we need to realize almost 3 decades after a democracy. We've started to celebrate a democracy in South Africa. And it's only once South Africans realize that they've got a power to change whoever is in government. And perhaps that, for me, the power lies in the ballot box and not going into the streets, burning down public facilities and destroy businesses and things like that. That is definitely not a way that any South African can condone. But we should encourage many more South Africans to take an active stand, to become actively involved in politics, and by that I mean exercising their democratic right to vote in and vote out those that they want to be in government.
Professor, I'm going to challenge you there and ask how South Africans should better use their votes when many of the political parties that are top options in terms of those performing in coalition governments are all playing the same dirty politics. It's not as if, withdrawing your vote from the ANC and giving your vote to the DA or the EFF or many of the other political parties is going to change anything, because even coalition governments led by smaller parties and not the ANC also collapse.
No, I've got a completely different view. I strongly believe that there are political parties, if given a chance, they will, one way or the other, advance the interests of South Africans. But they can only do that once they realize that the power lies with the voters. What is currently happening in Port Elizabeth, it's actually indicative of how politicians have realized that South African residents don't have power. We only have power, and that's why we find situations where you will find residents voting for Party X today and tomorrow, going on a protest against the very same party. And that can only be once we have not yet realized where the power lies. To a certain extent, I agree with you, but we should also understand that once political parties realize that the people will definitely vote them out, and then I strongly believe that the situation will change in terms of how South Africans are being treated when it comes to politics.
Do you think we should shorten the gaps in between those opportunities for South Africans to exercise their democratic right to vote, so that should those parties who have been voted into power not perform as they have promised to do in their mandate, that residents have the opportunity to take action and hold them to account sooner?
No, well, we do. If you look at our vibrant democratic institutions and processes, I strongly believe we already compare fares well with first world countries. I mean, your leading countries in the world. We don't need any more processes to try and strengthen our democracy. And we also have now an opportunity to vote in independent candidate if that is sanctioned by the government of the day. But fact of the matter is, in the meantime, South Africans have 5 years between any elections to try and make up their mind. And no one can complain that they've been left out. Too many of us has decided to take the route of inaction because we have lost faith in politics in general and in party politics. But fact of the matter is politics affects our daily lives, and that's why people should actually be encouraged to participate and take an active stance when it comes to politics.
And of course, active citizenry is not just relegated to voting days. There's many ways in which to be an active citizen, active in the politics of your region and your specific municipality other than voting. But many South Africans get frustrated by those processes again because there is so much mudslinging, even at municipal level, that to dip your toes into those waters almost is like, not only throwing your pearls to the swine, but in Afrikaans we have a saying, meng jou met die varke meng jou met die semels en die varke vreet jou op, which means that if you put yourself in a situation where dirty politics is continuously being played, you're going to end up like the people that you associate with. So how can South Africans be active citizens, actively involved in the politics in their municipalities, while still maintaining their dignity?
To start off, in many communities, residents have started ratepayers associations which deliver services, clean the communities. Those are small steps, but it's also an illustration of what communities can do. But I also like what you have indicated there or mentioned, because most of your structures at local government level, provincial and even at regional level are so highly politicized. And we have seen some of the negative consequences that have been taken against those individuals who raises their voice, who've got a different opinion than the leaders of the day. We've seen how they are actually being isolated or action being taken against them. Some people have lost their life because of the leadership positions that they hold within political parties. And all these things actually leads to a situation where people see politics as a dirty game and all that. But I strongly believe that we need to take baby steps. And one of the most fundamental actions that citizens can start taking, it's issues such as crime in their neighborhoods, but also not to allow certain things to happen. I think South Africans accept a lot of things things. If there are potholes, neighborhoods can come together and write to the municipality, to the presidency, and they can even seek legal advice to take on the municipality of the day. These are things that South Africans are not used to, but it's definitely some of the means that we can address this means. But we should also take the responsibility. We cannot always expect that government should do things for us. But in terms of coalition governments in general is a good thing, but it seems as if South Africans still needs to learn how to nurture this and how to actually take advantage of such an opportunity. But it seems as if political parties goes into this coalition without looking at the interest and at the long-term implications of such coalition agreements, but they only look at, perhaps in most instances, at who's going to occupy which position to advance the party interest.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. That was political analyst Professor Setulego Matabesi.